Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, I'm very well. The sun is shining. New furniture's arrived. Just got off a great call with Dinner Circle guys. Man, those guys were just opening up in a big way with each other, which was really great to see. Really great to see, sharing a lot about the kids. And yeah, I'm really pleased that they've got one another.
It's just amazing to see that group. I don't know the brotherhood, but the Inner Circle guys are just have committed to a higher level. And I always heard this, Tim, when I was younger, and I didn't, you know how it is. You hear things when you're younger, and you're like, oh, that's just cliche. But when you pay attention. And these guys have invested a considerable amount of money and time into bettering themselves for a 1-year program at a very high level. And they're playing with guys that are doing the same thing. And what that does is just naturally raises the bar and the intention that's into it, right? These guys have invested time, which is probably the most precious resource, but also capital into it. And they're expanding. They're talking about their marriages, right? And taking that to the next level. But they're also talking about fatherhood, health, deep issues like depression and things that all men and all people face, but not many people talk about it. And so it's just really cool to see these guys stepping into their greatness even more than they have previously, since they've gone through the activation method, which everybody has to go through first, right? That's kind of the foundation program. And some of these guys, they're going on year 2 with us because they've just hit their stride.
Yeah. It's incredible. The pattern as well was, and this is kind of what got them into working with us in the first place, right? That they'd keep all of their struggles to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, guys, just remember, you've got each other now. Like, you don't have to keep it. Just lean on each other. One of the guys was setting up a new business in Texas somewhere. And I'm like, cool, you can reach out to the guy that lives there and use his contacts. And anyway, it just makes things a lot easier when you remember as well what you've got at your fingertips. Because for a lot of them, so used to just powering through on their own. It's something that served them so well in the early days. When they really needed to, but they're not in that stage of life anymore. They don't need to just power through on their own.
I've never heard that expression. You got to remember that you have your fingertips. It's not something we use here in the States. So cool.
What you have at your fingertips.
Oh, got it. Yorkshire accent kicking in.
Yeah, I'm proud.
As you should be. Well, Tim, what I want to talk about today really is brain chemistry, right? And I'm not going to go too deep into the science behind it, but I find it really interesting. I was talking to one of the guys that's in the Brotherhood about what's going on for him. And I started to describe here's actually how your brain works. And it opened up just a whole clearing for him. He was like, oh my gosh, it's all so clear now, right? And so we all know that our brain really drives things from a biological or a biochemical reason. And so I want to talk about that today. Does that work for you?
No. You're going to do it anyway, right?
You're right. I am. So let me just set the scene and just ask you kind of a rhetorical question, I guess. But have you noticed that when guys start to make some money, right, and they're single, what's one of the first things they start to do? They start to go out and buy luxury items. They buy the nice watch, right? Maybe a couple. They start collecting watches is what a lot of them start doing. They get a nice car. They get the nice clothes. They start really investing in luxury items. And have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's really common. And men do it when they get divorced, separated. And some guys do it when there's problems at home, right? That's when they call it a midlife crisis. But typically what happens is when guys are having a problem in their marriage and the guy is on his way out or thinks he is, he starts investing in things. He starts coming up with this idea that, a sports car is a good idea. Yeah, I want to start, like I said, collecting expensive watches. That's kind of men's jewelry, right? Really what's happening is the brain's getting triggered because the brain really has 2 primary functions, remember? And we got to use this lens to go look through. The first function the brain has is, how do I survive? Right? We haven't changed that much. How do I survive? How do I, survive so I don't get attacked by that lion, that tiger? the other tribes people, the other people that are out there trying to kill me and take my resources. How do I survive with the weather, the food, et cetera, et cetera? The second thing the brain is always looking at through a lens is, how do I find a mate so I can procreate? Right now, things have changed in our society. We don't have to, most of us, if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, you don't have to worry about tigers probably, right? Coming to attack you, probably not even another tribe coming to get you. However, your brain's looking at that through that lens all the time when we're looking at being attacked. Same thing with finding a mate. Even if we're not looking to procreate, our brain is still along those lines. I need to have sex, right? We're going to get hit. What happens when these guys are buying these expensive items is they're getting a serotonin hit, right? Every time they buy a watch, serotonin hit. Now, I know you've bought some very nice things in your time, Tim. But remember when you buy your first nice car, your first nice guitar, first nice piece of furniture, you get a huge serotonin hit, right? Serotonin is the biochemical marker that helps us out with pride, confidence, and respect. You'll say, well, Doug, why is it a good thing? Why does my brain want me to have pride, confidence, and respect? Right? And I'll get into that in a second here. But once you buy your first nice thing, let's just cars, right? Because a lot of guys can relate to this. Your first nice car, you get a huge serotonin hit, right? Pride, confidence, respect, and you feel great about it. Your second car, it could be a nicer car, but the serotonin hit's a little lower. Your third car, you're just buying a friggin' car now, right? The serotonin is going away. The reason being is that serotonin is designed to give you pride, confidence, respect. Really what that's about is climbing the social ladder. And the reason your brain wants you to climb the social ladder is because if you have higher status, Tim, it's easier to survive. When you have higher status, you have better access to food, right? When you have higher status, you have better access to shelter. You have the best shelters. When you have higher status, you have better access to mates. Think about primates out there, chimpanzees or what have you. The alpha in there, he's going around, he's screwing all the female chimpanzees. The females, they're bringing him food, right? They're grooming them, et cetera, et cetera. That is a higher status. Now, serotonin will give you a hit every time you increase your status. Now, we can do this through some people do it through social media. Look how amazing I am. They get a little serotonin hit when they do that, right? And it's really important to do it. Now, you can probably think of a time when you've just felt really confident. You've been on an alpha reset for you, perhaps, or something on that when you're coaching, because you're an amazing coach. I've seen you at work countless times, Tim. But everybody else listening to this, imagine a time when you felt extremely confident, super confident, right? And your just kind of chest is puffed. You just feel like you just killed it, right? Maybe you're speaking on stage or something in your business. When you see a man who's super confident, that is a guy who's got a brain flooded with serotonin. Flooded, right? Another way that serotonin helps us feel confident is through our physical stature. That's the way a lot of men do it. Now, the physical stature could be status, like we talked about, nice cars, could be big, strong muscles. I'll protect you, etc. I can dominate you. But those are ways that men's brains get flooded with serotonin, are all these things that allow us to climb the social ladder. It's also a reason a lot of guys focus on work, right? They focus on work and often neglect the family. It's common, it's a typical commonplace thing. And they're really chasing this brain chemical called serotonin. Now, women, it's a little different, right? Women are looking for social status in a different way, right? They're comparing themselves in a social status to other women around them. How well is that woman provided for, et cetera, et cetera. But really, it's about looks for women. That's why women are so concerned with how they look, right? Women will constantly be investing in makeup, and regardless of age, facelifts as they get older, because that's how they get their serotonin hit. Now, I'm going to take it a step further on the serotonin. Serotonin is also the reason people get upset and troll other people online, right? Because what happens is, if I were to tell you, Tim, last year I made $1 million off one contract that I did. It was a great contract and they renewed. Some people immediately say, that's ridiculous. I can't believe that guy did that. He must be cheating or selling drugs or whatever it may be. What's happening is the brain is trying to justify your status versus the other person's status. It's because of serotonin that we compare ourselves to others. And when we look at it through this lens, we can start seeing how we can utilize serotonin in different ways going through it. So that's one brain chemical that I want to talk about that we want to utilize today is just the serotonin, pride, confidence, and respect as we seek status.
How does this I'll back up. So as you are saying this, the symptoms and characteristics of what you're describing, the comparison, the other bits, sounds a lot like ego to me.
It is a lot like ego, right? It's not ego, but this is just a brain chemical, right? Ego is a whole nother thing in psychology. So it's a little different. I'll go over some of the other brain chemicals and you can see how some of these tie together, right? And I probably won't have time to do it in just this episode, but what I want guys to get here is that a lot of things that we do, like collect watches, isn't because we want to collect watches, right? It's because we're searching for serotonin. Now, when I know I'm searching for serotonin, when I go buy another $10,000 watch or whatever it is, maybe I can make a choice. Maybe I can make a choice to get serotonin in a different way that actually pushes Doug further along towards Doug's goals, right? So this is all about optics. We talk a lot about optics in our podcast, like really knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And so what I want to break down, today is just some of these brain chemicals, about 5 of them, that we're going to break down and how they work and why you do what they do and how they combine. So another one is dopamine, right? Dopamine's pleasure, right? This is a good one, right? Food, sex, money, right? Dopamine drives your intention to what you do, right? It really boosts your mood. So an example would be, you eat ice cream or I know you love quality chocolate. You eat a piece of chocolate. One of the reasons you eat chocolate is because you get a dopamine hit when you have chocolate. Now, the reason your brain gives you a dopamine hit is because it's a high calorie food. So your brain says, aha, jackpot, right? You just gave us a lot of calories so we can, guess what? Survive. So I will reward you with dopamine, right? And this is a reason that a lot of these food manufacturers have certain formulas, especially around fat and sugar taste, because they're trying to, when you bite certain types of crisps or chips or whatever it may be, right, you're getting a dopamine hit on there, right? You get that going through and it always is going to boost your mood. Same thing with sex, right? You have a great orgasm, you get a dopamine hit, or you're jerking off to porn, dopamine hit, right? Different qualities, right? Different qualities of dopamine, but your body temporarily is saying, okay, good. You're going to one of the 2 primary drivers, survival and procreation, right? Porn, you get less of a dopamine hit than actually having sex, right? Because your brain knows it's going to give you less, less reward, going through there. So now you want to look at, why are you doing that? When you just want that ice cream and you're on a diet and you're like, dude, I got to drop 2 stone, 20 pounds, whatever it is, and you crave it, go, am I seeking dopamine here? And if I'm seeking dopamine, how else can I get it? Same thing with money, right? Sometimes we just want more money, not just for the social status, but when you get that check in the mail for $50,000 and you're going to cash it because you're going to go, do some stuff, that could be a dopamine hit hitting you. Now, a lot of guys listening to this might be saying, check for 50,000. I get those every week, Again, the dopamine, just like the serotonin, becomes lower because your body's used to it. It doesn't need it. It's changed. Now, you may get serotonin hits with that too, and we'll talk about how those all work and how these all combine. Another one that we want to talk about, and again, I don't want to get too cerebral here, no pun intended, but is oxytocin. We know it. I got 2 kids, so oxytocin's released when, a child is born, so the mother can bond to the kid, but it's also how we bond with each other. Right. So when you fell in love with Amelia and those guys listening to this who fall in love with their wives, oxytocin was released, right? Oxytocin came in there and it increases in the brain. Same thing happens though, as oxytocin, goes down, we start to worry about our relationships. We start to worry about people around us. Our trust goes down and that kicks into cortisol, which I'll get into in a little bit. But the reason oxytocin happens for us is because it forms bonds. So humans are unique. And there's other primates and a few other animals that do this, but very few animals in the animal kingdom that we know of have emotional bonds that are lifelong with a non-reproductive partner, right? So a friend, for what we would call a lifelong friend. That's where oxytocin is released. There's been enough oxytocin deposits in there that the bond is formed and the bond is strong enough to go through, right? And it's really important to look at that. And now we have 3 more that I'm going to go through here. And then again, I'll talk about this. But oxytocin, why would we have it? Again, we don't want to get kicked out of the tribe, because we get kicked out of the tribe, we're on our own, and it's tougher to survive in that environment here. Another one that I think is important for guys to know is endorphins, right? Endorphins are that one that you get after a long workout, right? You get the workout in. It's very similar receptors to heroin. Your body gives you a little kick of endorphins, right? This is really a pain suppressor, so to speak, right? It gives you that feel good thing that happens, and endorphins kick in. But something that endorphins often get confused with is adrenaline, right? Now, adrenaline is different because adrenaline is an amplifier of all the other hormones we just talked about, right? Adrenaline amplifies it all. So you add adrenaline into it. And this is why a lot of guys, as they get older, the midlife crisis guys, you know who you are, you take risky investments, right? You start investing in businesses you shouldn't, or you start new businesses because you're bored and you shouldn't do it, right? Or maybe you're driving race cars all of a sudden in your 40s and 50s. Or maybe you're all of a sudden you're going, I need to go skydiving. I need to go bungee jumping. I need to go climb a mountain. We got several coaches that have done all of this stuff, right? This is the reason. This is the driving factor that comes through there. Now, again, I'm sharing all of these with you guys. I'm going to tie them in here in a second. But one of the reasons I'm sharing it is because we can now look objectively at the things that we're doing in our life and say, why am I doing this? Attach it to a hormone, right? Now we can codify it. And now we can say, hey, is there another way is this benefiting me or not? Just use porn as an example, right? Dopamine, right? Are you watching porn because you're going out of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which I'll talk about in a second, and trying to get a dopamine hit? Cool. What other way can you get a dopamine hit that's more beneficial for you? Maybe it's porn. That's fine. I have no judgment against guys that watch porn. But what is it? Is it getting you more towards your goal? And now you can start changing things. Or maybe it's a serotonin hit you're trying to get. And there's some nutrition in here, which we can talk about at some point, that affects a lot of these as well. But so let's use an example here. And so one of the reasons, I'll use coffee. It's a common one, right? Starbucks. One of the reasons Starbucks blew up so quickly is because of these brain chemicals. People don't talk about it. They talk about the marketing, the third place, but really the genius behind Starbucks are the use of these brain chemicals. So you go to Starbucks, you buy whatever it is you buy. You're a chai latte guy, if I recall. It's been a while since you and I have been to a Starbucks together.
No, that's definitely not my bag, but keep going.
What is yours?
Who have you been taking with you, Doug? So lately it's been a matcha latte, so the green tea.
Oh, so I'm so far off. It's a chai tea, but now it's a matcha tea. Okay.
Oat milk.
With oat milk. Even better for this example. Thank you. So you're the oat milk matcha latte guy at Starbucks. I'm the black coffee guy. No room for cream. So anyway, you get your what is it, matcha oat milk coffee or latte thing you get, right? You get a dopamine hit after the first sip. Ooh, because it tastes just so good, right? Oh, the oat milk, the matcha, it just tastes good. You get, boom, Tim gets a dopamine hit. You also get a serotonin hit because you have a Starbucks, you can afford a latte, you can afford to have oat milk in it. I mean, friggin' oat milk in it. So you're getting a status serotonin hit to your identity. And then the adrenaline, the amplifier of those dopamine and serotonin, comes from the coffee, right? So now you're amplifying your dopamine, amplifying your serotonin. And so it's going to hook you on that. And eventually, when you do this enough, guys, and we can think of all kinds of other things, sex with another woman, et cetera, et cetera. When you do it enough time, it becomes part of your identity and also becomes something that your brain just says you need. It becomes a need more than a want, hence getting addicted to coffee. And gosh, I'm in that role, just black coffee myself, right? Going through there. But it becomes frequent. And this is also why a lot of guys find themselves, you can make coffee at home. All of us can. But they find themselves going to the same Starbucks, Dutch Brothers here in the States, or Dunkin' Donuts, or whatever it may be, going over and over again when they could just do it at home. Well, why do you do it? Well, Doug, it's easier for me. BS. Maybe it is. But the real reason you're doing it is because you're getting an amplification of your serotonin and dopamine receptors. That's where it comes down to. Now, if I know that, now I can make some choices, right? And this is also why a lot of guys get stuck making the same amount of money and not making good investments, but making riskier investments, even though they know better. How many times have you and I heard this, Tim, from guys that are making risky investments, losing tons of money, and they know better, right? They knew they should have put it into a better annuity or something along those lines. It's because of these biochemicals, right, that are in our brains, that our brain is releasing. The last one I'm going to go over here, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll talk about what guys can do with this information, is cortisol, right? We always hear about it. We're businessmen. Cortisol is it's a stress hormone, right? And the reason I'm not going to go into too many issues, but the reason that if cortisol is utilized by the brain a lot, and especially as a child, but as an adult, it becomes the go-to drug for the brain. It can cause a lot of trust issues. And a lot of guys see these in their marriages where they no longer trust their wife, right? Or the wife no longer trusts them because it works both ways, right? And these could be trust issues that start at business or somewhere else that bleed into the relationship. And when cortisol is running the show, this causes a lot of financial issues for a lot of guys. It causes, all kinds of things. Now, some things that causes cortisol are, poor communication. That's why we teach, right, the triadic connection, and that helps wipe away the slate clean, right? We have a clean slate method that we use. That actually really what we're doing here is we're using a clean slate method to really boost dopamine and serotonin within both partners, right? Which then you really hits oxytocin for that bond, right? And that's where the hidden motive technique come in. The hidden motives technique really hits serotonin and oxytocin, right? And it's wiping cortisol away. Things you want to avoid, guys, and it's common ones with cortisol is watching the news. All right, you're seeing something that's happening in Bangladesh. Your brain doesn't comprehend that. Oh, that's Bangladesh. I'm safe. It just sees tragedy. It sees tragedy or something going on, and it starts really messing with your cortisol levels. And over time, your body's used to producing that cortisol, and your body's saying, "Geez, I need to survive. I need to reproduce." And so, how do these things play out? So, Tim, I wanted to bring all these to the table as well as those examples so guys can start looking at this when they go to buy that new watch, or that new sports car, or whatever it may be that they might find themselves doing. And now they can look at this and go back through this podcast and say, okay, what am I really trying to achieve from a brain chemical standpoint? And how can I replace that with something better?
Yeah, it's kind of like neuro association, NACs. You'll know that. Obviously from NACs from NLP, just basically attachments, right? It's interesting because if I feel myself, last night I wanted to grab a beer from the fridge, and I'm like, interesting. That's out of the norm. Why do I want to do that? What? Because I'm wanting to get a feeling, right? I'll take it back a step. When we were living in Italy a few years ago, I got into the habit of having a cold beer. This restaurant would go for a dinner at. Oh man, it was gorgeous. We'd walk in, and a little local place at the end of the street we were staying in, just in Rome. And they got to know us. And they used to freeze this huge, big, like pint glass, but it was bigger than a pint. They'd keep it in the freezer. And they'd pull it out and they'd pour the beer. And it was, oh my God, it's so refreshing. And anyway, in the beginning, I was just having it because it was all new and we're in Rome and we're loving it. And anyway, it got to about 2 or 3 weeks in, and I've been basically doing this most nights. Only one, but pretty much doing it most nights. I'm like, I started to wonder, why am I doing this? Because it started to have a hold on me. It'd get to the point where I'd get to 4 p.m. and I'd start thinking about that beer. And at which point I'm like, oh my God, this has got a hold of me. I am not in control of it. It is in control of me. And anyway, as I went into it and I started to unpack, okay, so what emotion am I trying to get here? It took me a little while to just sit with it, several minutes, but it seems like a lot longer when you're sitting with it, right? And what it came down to was the feeling of refreshment that I got from that ice cold glass and the ice cold beer. It signaled the end of the workday And it was like, drink. So what I figured out I could do instead was replace the ice cold beer with an ice cold shower. And I started to do that. And it worked equally as well. It wasn't as enjoyable, but it worked equally as well.
Yeah.
Definitely did not look forward to it in the way I was looking forward to the beer. But in terms of that, which is what I got from the beer, that release, that's what I'd feel when I got out of the shower and I dry myself. I am like, So yeah, it's looking back, it's all about those chemicals and the associations you're creating.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what we do when we do one-on-one coaching with the guys, is we go through this in depth, because what you're doing is what high performers do, right? You're looking at it and saying, asking the right questions and saying, why am I doing this? Right? You don't have to be a brain scientist to understand the necessity of understanding how the neurochemistry works here, and knowing this, like, okay, I'm having that beer. What am I looking for? Okay, it's a dopamine hit. All right. Do I want to do this? Yes or no? No, maybe I don't want the beer because I'm doing carnivore, I'm on a diet, whatever it is, right? Now you can say, okay, how else can I boost my mood or what have you? Awesome. I'm going to have sex with my wife, right? Whatever it is, right? I'm going to get that hit, or for you, take that cold shower, and that's going to do it. Cold shower is probably going to release adrenaline, which is going to amplify, the dopamine for you. And you're probably going to get a serotonin hit in there as well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So there's a lot of ways, and what you're doing is what high performers do, right? High performers in business, high performers in sports, et cetera. This is what we walk guys through in the one-on-one programs that we offer. But the point is, what I want guys listening to this or watching this, depending on where you're getting this, to understand is you have a choice, right? Your brain is going to try to achieve these two goals no matter what, right? How can I survive? How can I reproduce? So knowing that you're looking at it through these lenses, how can you take your goals and your dreams and train your brain to help you get those goals and dreams through the lens of those two things using these neurochemicals? When you can start doing that, guys, it gets really fun. Now you can look at this in your relationships, areas that you're having problems with. Maybe you're in a sexless marriage, right? We talk about that a lot because a lot of guys talk about it with us. Now start looking at these areas. Where am I going in this? Right? What areas are missing here for me, so to speak? Right. So this is just a really good way of looking at that. So guys, what I want you to do is, gone through this. It's a little heady. It's a little heady compared to some of the other podcasts we put out, but we've got several of you guys have reached out and are looking for some stuff that will help you with high performance. This is one of them. One of the things that we go through. And guys, in the Brotherhood, we're going to be doing a deeper dive in this if you guys are interested as well. I know a lot of you guys listen to this podcast also and going through it, but look at your life, guys. What are the top 2 to 3 complaints that you have currently? And look where it falls into hitting these goals with your neurochemistry. What can you change neurochemically to allow you to achieve those goals better and faster? I think that's really the key. And that's what I want you guys to get out of this today. Tim, as always great having you here. I'll let you go for your matcha oat milk latte and let you go pick that up, get your serotonin hit as well as your dopamine hit and some adrenaline. Until then, guys, for the rest of you, I want you to take some action here. And as always, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus where you can get a new training each and every month. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus. And we'll see you next time, guys, here on The Powerful Man Show.